Let me just briefly read a bio. Anyways, lent his editing talents to more than 30 feature films and television dramas and miniseries. He was the editor and co-producer of the great HBO series Band of Brothers. He did 5 films for director Craig Brewer. He is the recipient of 15 other major awards, including the Peabody Award, the BDA Award, the International Monitor Award, the Humanitas Award, and the PGA Golden Laurel Award. He was the editor and supervising producer on Law & Order, which he received 2 Emmys and 4 nominations, and he is the recipient of 15 other major awards, including the Peabody Award, the BDA Award, and then I just repeated it. Anyway, welcome to the table, Billy Fox. You said the last 4 out of 6 projects or movies that you've done have been done in Premiere.
In Premiere, yeah.
And the first one was what, Only the Brave?
Only the Brave.
And that goes back to what year?
What was that, like 6 years ago?
6 years ago?
Yeah.
And how was that transition from the Avid to Premiere, and why? I mean, why did you're comfortable in one? You just wanted something different?
No, well, yes. I'm always looking to, between every project, I'm looking at the entire workflow. Can you hear me? Yes. Better? Okay. I'm always looking to improve the workflow. So in that in-between period, I'm always looking at all aspects, be it storage and speakers and everything. And I was actually, I was working on a Avid show. I was a little frustrated. And my wife, Serena, who works at Adobe, says, why don't you ever use Adobe Premiere? And I said, I don't have anything against it. I don't know. I don't know much about it. And so I made a phone call to Van Bedient, who works at Adobe with Adobe Premiere. And he came over to my edit room. We were editing at Warner Brothers. And he sat down and the 2 of us talked for 2 hours. And I said, tell me why I should use your product. And he basically gave me about 4 or 5 nuggets that went, this is interesting. I think I could use this. Finished that project. I was starting up on Only the Brave, which at that time was called Granite Mountain. And I talked to the director, Joe Kaczynski, and I said, look, I'm interested in changing this and doing this and doing that. And he goes, great, that'd be fine. And then I came up to him and I said, I'd like to use a different editing system. I don't really want to use Avid. And he says, well, what do you want to use? And I said, Premiere. And he goes, well, I know of Premiere and don't know a lot about it. And so I scheduled another meeting with Adobe and said, I want to use your product, but I have to have shared project. And at that time, it didn't really have shared project. And I said, well, when are you going to have it? He says, we're working on it right now. When are you going to have it? And I said, and he says, well, we're going to have it on, I forget what the date, September 1. And I went, oh, that's exactly when we're making the transition from the editor's cut to the director's cut. And I said, okay, I will edit without shared project for the editor's cut, and you're going to give me software on that date. And God damn it, he did it. And, Adobe set up, Carl remembers all this. Oh yeah. We, at Only the Brave, Granite Mountain, Adobe had their own offices. And we were getting new software like every couple weeks. It worked great. It has grown a lot since, but we did the entire project, and it worked out great. And I basically, it's as good as working with Unity, working with Avid. It's basically the exact same. It works just kind of the same. You saw what Russell was doing, that Reels lock, and it works fantastic. Yeah, and I basically, I always look at every project I work on, I look at the project and determine what's the best everything for this project. So I can't say that I'm only a Premiere person. I'm a what's best for this project person. So I don't know what I'm necessarily going to use next, but it's probably going to be Premiere.
You have that muscle memory, though, from going from one editing system to another, and does it take a while to, if your next project, for instance, is Avid, and you've been using Premiere, is it a little bit difficult? Would it take a couple of days, a couple of weeks to get back into the groove?
If you've never used it before, when I did Band of Brothers, I had never used Avid. That was my first time.
Oh, really? Wow.
And, you know, basically it was first day I never made an edit. First day. Second day I maybe made one edit. Third day I was kind of maybe working a little. By Thursday I'm editing badly. By Friday I was okay. I'd had no flow or rhythm or anything, but it was all fine, and I was completely pestering my assistant. You know, asking a million questions, like every 2 minutes. How do I make this do this when I need this? Oh, it's all right there. Great.
How'd you get that gig?
It's a good question.
Yeah, and you were also the
But
producer.
no one asks you that question.
Yeah,
Thank God. I'm always, I was on Final Cut, and I was on Lightworks, and I was on Montage, and I've gone to a million different editing
what
systems.
did you use for Law and Order? That wasn't
It was a
Avid?
CMX 6000.
Oh,
And that was a great system. Great. Old now, but it did some really smart things.
did you come from Moviola at all?
No,
Okay.
I've never cut film. I mean, physically cut film.
There was that great question somebody asked for Stump the Gurus when they were talking to Carl about he's been with Adobe since 2006, and what is the biggest thing that has changed? Well, what has changed for you since only the Brave that's gotten better and better and better, or worse and worse? Or what does it need? Or what does Billy Fox need now?
You mean for Premiere?
Yeah. You got him here, you might as well say.
Well, he knows. He already knows. Surround sound. I do a lot of audio work. And I do a lot of work with, be it dialogue, making the cut, and then peeling into a world of sound effects, and then peeling into a world of music. And then I go back into editing, and I think I said it in here. And surround, in as much as in the edit room, it's not that I really care about the rear speakers, but it's the ability of controlling this sound and being able to move it anywhere I want. Even in Premiere, we've come up with a way to do surround, but it's not, you don't have that ability of having this sound and putting it in that speaker and flying it over here. It's not that I do that often, but you don't have control. And all of the other editing systems, you do. So surround's a big deal. LucidLink was a huge feature. And basically LucidLink makes it so that your shared project of person across the hallway, and you say, can I have reel one? And then the lock turns off because they're across the hallway. Well, LucidLink works so that no matter where that person is in the world, we had it set up, Russell had me set up on a button, and I'd go, can I have reel one? And Russell would be in Seattle, and all of a sudden reel one would unlock. It was so great.
Yeah, we should do a demo on LucidLink.
LucidLink's really spectacular.
Is it affordable?
Yeah, apparently it's really affordable, yeah.
Base pricing for 5 editors to just put your projects on Lucid is around $25 a month for a terabyte.
Well, actually, we've never used Lucid for media. It's just for project management. We worked in a world where each station has its own drive, and then Russell would copy everything to the drives behind the curtain. So I haven't used that. I don't know. So I don't know how much it would cost if you're not storing anything with them.
Yeah, if you're just getting 1 terabyte for your
Right.
production folder, yeah, it's about $25 a month. If you want to put the media up there as well, the price scales. Because
Yeah.
you have a faster tier of storage,
Yeah.
and you're paying per terabyte.
if you all got an idea of what you want to see, come to me, because we want to show it to you. And it's difficult coming up with a different night every month. So I rely on all of you to come up with ideas. So is your next project, do you think, going to be in Premiere, or do you know what your next project is?
I would like the next project to be in Premiere. I don't.
I know you're a Final Cut fan too, right? But it doesn't have certain things that you need within the professional, in at least the future world.
I like Final Cut X a lot. I think it's a great product. It has some, or lack thereof, of a few features, be it shared project, be it one, and real sound editing. You can certainly do editing, but mixing and control points don't work for me. I have a mixer and it records all of my mixing and it's real. And I'm not going to be putting control points and then pulling it down. That's just not going to happen. And so they don't have that. In terms of pure editing, it's very powerful. The magnetic timeline's great. A lot of features that I would love to get on other systems, but it's really nice. The minor problem with that system in terms of working on TV shows or features is if you look at Resolve and you look at Avid and you look at Final Cut 7, doesn't kind of count anymore, and Premiere, they're all cousins of each other. Oftentimes we'll bring on an assistant or even another editor who's never worked on Premiere before. And I'll go to Jamie or Russell, I'll go, this isn't a problem. He'll be slow for a week, and then they'll be fine. So that's a non-issue to be able to bring people on. Final Cut is such a different mindset. And so it's challenging to bring people on, and so, but I do enjoy working with it.
Because I love that you're sharing with us, and I want to be able to give a chance for all of you to share with Billy. So I want to open this up to questions right now. And can we get the lights up a little bit so I can see the audience? Thanks. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a question from that section, a question from this section, a question from this section, starting with that section over there. If nobody raises their hand, okay, you, sir.
Hi. How's it going?
Hi.
I just have a question. You mentioned that you use some sort of console to do your audio editing.
Right.
What console are you using, and how long have you been using that system?
I used to use the Mackie Universal, which was this behemoth, and I still have it.
The what, Universal?
Mackie.
A Mackie. Oh.
Mackie Universal. It was really nice. Euphonics, isn't it? Yeah, the Euphonics MC Mix. Avid did purchase it. I don't know if they even use it anymore. Do they still sell it?
I don't know.
I have a couple of them. They're very nice. They're small boards and eight faders, and you can load it up because I run with 20, 30, 40 tracks. And so you just hit a button and it'll go to the next bank. So it's wonderful. And it remembers everything. And it's interesting because Avid works a little bit differently than Premiere works. You know, they work a little bit interestingly. In Avid world, you have to go into record to be recording your keyframes. In Premiere, it's kind of great because it's always hot. So as you're mixing and you're just noticing something's getting a little loud, I just reach over and adjust it. And I'm able to adjust dialogue, let's just say dialogue and music, and I'll put my music over here, and I'm mixing both live. And that's why control points just, how in the hell would that work? You know, and I also believe in as dialogue comes in when you have a music cue, I hate fading music out and then the dialogue hits. One has to segue into it so that you, as a viewer, you never notice it. And so with two faders, you're able to do that perfectly.
Question from the middle section. Yes.
So you do a lot of sound and music work by yourself. Do you split that with the assistants, or do you
That what?
Do you split the music and sound work that you do with your assistants? I think a lot of editors
Yeah.
have that stuff well.
Repeat the question.
Oh, yeah. He wants to know how, in terms of music or sound effects, do I split up to my first or second? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it used to be for a very, very long time that I did all of it. And I discovered that I really quickly would fall behind in dailies, and way behind, like 25 scenes behind, because I was spending so much time in sound and sound effects and music. And a couple of years ago, I started to do two different things. One was farming more of it off to my first and second. And I also, when I'm really starting to make a lot of changes, I turn off the sound effects and turn off the music and just use dialogue. And I don't even want to hear it. And I don't want to be making decisions based on that. I don't want to be then having to fix the music, and I just want to go. So my philosophy of editing has kind of changed. And I find that I'm staying up with camera. I'm going home at night and everything's cut. I used to never be there.
How do you choose your first or second on your projects?
Well,
What do you look for?
let's
What do you
talk
look for?
first. Again, when I first started, my assistants weren't as, I don't want to say competent. They had some learning to do. So I was like always involved, and kind of every crisis that happened, if this was too green, and I would be involved in getting it fixed. And at a certain point, I said, this is dumb. This is just not working out. So I basically completely changed that philosophy too. And this was back when I was working on The Crazies, and I was working with Harry Yoon. And there was a crisis, and this was too green. And everyone was freaking out because it was so green. And I'm in the room with Harry, and everyone's talking about how are we going to fix this. And I looked at it and I went, Harry, you got this. And I left the room. From that moment on, I believe in the philosophy that my first assistant runs the ship. I never add any footage to our dailies. I never add music. I never do anything, because I want to make sure everything's in its proper folder and in its proper everything. So I really rely completely on my first. Everything goes through that person. In terms of what do I look for in a first primarily? The job of a first assistant in television or features has changed a lot in the recent 5, 10, 15 years. You know, I have many an assistant who were very competent and really knew what they were doing, but they were pretty technical, but they knew like the studio system, they knew all the departments, they knew all that, they knew how to get things done. But now we live in such a different world with files and transferring this and posting things up to Frame.io, and it is a different world. And I know a lot of it, but not what Russell or Jamie knows. It's completely different. So I look for someone, and I'm always challenging my assistant that I really want this to do this. And they'll look at it and they'll go write some script, or they'll figure a way to do it. And I want someone who is really smart that way. And in doing that, it's about efficiencies and making things run smoother and faster.
Question from this section? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned some features of Final Cut X that you'd want in other NLEs. Is there anything from Lightworks or anything that
Yeah,
you would maybe want to resurrect for like the modern work?
I've tried actually. They had a thing called the clip lift bin. And you could be looking at your dailies. I mean, you can kind of do it with all of the different systems, but this was so simple and elegant that you could be looking at your dailies and you mark in and then you don't mark out, you hit another button and it takes that clip and it puts it in a folder. And then you would just go through your dailies and you would make, and I call them golden moments, and you would go through and boom, boom, boom. You'd find the 12 that you really like. Then you open that folder and they're waiting for you. Now, you can do it. You could pull out a sequence and make it, absolutely. But this was so, you didn't have to do that. And it was a very, very nice system. That was a very nice feature.
Thanks, Bill.
Question from over there. If nobody has one, we'll go to the middle section. Middle section. Questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, so as more people have access now to the project, are people more hands-on, and as other directors editing on the laptop?
Oh,
Because what was it do? Like, what do you do? Or do you-
it's always different. I've had shows where we set up an editing system for the director. And there are times that just, he wants to do something different, and I go, I got other things to do. Here, take off. Have fun. Do it, give it to me, and then I may work on it, I may polish it, but I'll see what you're looking for. And it kind of keeps them busy, so. And then I think I'll probably leave the names off of it. Then there was another project, really great guy, and he had a system in his office, it was right next to it, back to back. And I had my edit room, and he's over here, and he did all of the color correction. And so when I would finish making a change or adding whatever, then it would go over to his room. It wouldn't go over, he would just open it. And I would get out of that reel, and he would take that reel for a while, and he would go and do the color correction. So when we went to go do the DI, the colorist goes, oh, this looks great. God, you guys have really been working on it. And I almost said the name, said, this is what I want. This is the look. And so they went, oh,
Wow.
and they set up a special monitor in the DI that was nothing more than an output of that file, and a special piece of software that kept it locked to the DI. So as he came up to the shot, he would just look over there and go, oh yeah, I see what I need to do. It was really interesting. So I love it when directors, or, well, kind of keep it at directors. Producers don't. They don't really show much interest in doing it. But directors, you know, JD is great because he's very technical. And he would sometimes at home, because he would have dailies, and he would come up, I have an idea and I tried this. Okay.
I think we have time for about, gosh, it goes so fast, one question or so. Anybody over in the other section? You get your second chance here. No, middle section. Anybody in the middle section?
think
Yeah,
we're
front
done.
row,
Oh, we're
front
done.
row.
In terms of your workflow, because you've been describing, you put in sound effects, you do the music, do you do finishing?
No, no,
A finishing section?
no,
You don't?
no.
So you finish,
No, because you really can't, because, I mean, if you look at each three of the departments, if you look at music, we're using temp music, so that doesn't exist. If you're looking at sound effects, that doesn't work largely. I mean, I'll work with the sound department and they'll give us some of the sound effects, but a lot of them are dealing with 5.1 sound effects and more complicated, and they have no. So they usually use mine as a reference, but no, they pretty much replace everything. And then when it comes to dialogue, I just deal with the mix track. And then I have it set up so that if I want the splits, and I want this microphone, not a mix of these two microphones, I just hit match frame twice, and then all the split tracks show up. But I actually only do that like 5% of the time. Most of the time, it's usually if I have overlapping dialogue and I need that line clean, so I want to get this microphone off. So then I'll go to the splits and find the clean track.
Unfortunately, we are out of time, and so please thank Billy Fox. It's time.